Melvera was a beautiful noblewoman with graceful manners and a smile as gentle as spring sunlight. Yet behind that kind appearance lay a secret that made everyone fear her. She ate monsters. While others saw these creatures as deadly horrors, Melvera saw them as ingredients waiting to be cooked. Her strange passion earned her the nickname the Voracious Villainess, a title whispered among nobles with both disgust and scorn. Isolated and misunderstood, Melvera had long accepted that no one would ever truly understand her unusual tastes. Until one fateful banquet when she met a man whose blood-stained sword and fearless gaze changed everything. On a peaceful morning, Melvera is sitting calmly on a park bench enjoying what looks like the perfect sandwich. She eats it so blissfully that an older man passing by can't help but stop and stare. The sight is oddly mesmerizing. Every bite she takes seems to fill her with pure satisfaction. Curious, the man strikes up a conversation, and Melvera, being as polite as she is peculiar, offers to share her food. He accepts, though maybe a little too eagerly, and takes a huge bite. Immediately, his eyes light up. The flavors are rich, complex, and balanced in a way he's never tasted before. It's so good that he blurts out that he could eat this forever. But then, casually, he asks what kind of meat it is. Melvera smiles and calmly replies, "Backhorn." And at that very moment, his face turns pale. Backhorns, those are deadly monsters, infamous for their lethal poison. Realizing what he's just eaten, the man suddenly doubles over and vomits. He can't comprehend how anyone, especially a noblewoman, could possibly eat something so dangerous. Unless she's that woman he's heard rumors about. Meanwhile, Melvera simply continues eating completely unbothered. To her, even the most ferocious beasts can be turned into a delicious meal if prepared correctly. She doesn't expect others to understand, but deep down, she believes that someday someone will. The very next day, Melvera attends a grand banquet hosted for the nobles. The hall is magnificent, filled with glittering chandeliers and tables overflowing with exquisite dishes. Melvera, as always, is enjoying herself, sampling everything she can, when a familiar woman approaches. It's Mrs. Talbot, her stepmother's attendant. With a stern expression, Mrs. Talbot reminds her of the real reason she's there. Melvera's cheerful smile instantly fades. The banquet isn't just about celebrating the harvest, it's also a social event for nobles to meet potential partners. As the daughter of a count, Melvera is expected to find a suitable fiancé. Her stepmother has threatened to send her to a convent if she fails this year. Even her father, trying to be lenient, said he'd accept anyone, even a mere knight, so long as they're decent. Reluctantly, Melvera decides to play along. But as she scans the hall, she notices the nobles whispering behind her back. Their glances are cold, their gossip merciless. That's when she realizes none of them want anything to do with her. Her reputation as the woman who eats monsters has already spread too far. Feeling disheartened, Melvera drifts away from the main crowd and heads toward the area where the knights are gathered. Maybe she thinks someone there won't recognize her. But before she can even approach them, chaos suddenly erupts. A monstrous roar echoes through the banquet. Guests scream as tables overturn and chandeliers shake. Out of nowhere, an enraged creature bursts into the area, a mad backhorn. In the midst of the confusion, Melvera spots an elderly couple who have fallen and can't get up. Without hesitation, she rushes toward them, urging them to escape. But before they can move, the backhorn looms over them, its eyes glowing with madness. Her instincts tell her to run. But seeing the couple's terrified faces, Melvera makes a split-second decision. She shouts, waving her arms, drawing the beast's attention toward herself instead. The monster charges straight at her. And just when it's about to strike, its head suddenly flies off. Standing before her is a man with a blood-stained sword, his expression calm yet terrifying. Whispers rise among the onlookers. He's the blood-mad Duke Roger. His reputation is as fearsome as the monsters he slays. Roger's unusual eyes lock with hers, and for a moment time seems to stop. Melvera stares, not in fear, but in quiet awe. Yet Roger mistakes her expression, assuming she's terrified of him. But instead of shrinking back, Melvera gracefully stands and introduces herself with proper noble etiquette. Roger pauses, surprised that she's still following social manners right after almost dying. He asks if she's hurt, but Melvera's attention is fixed elsewhere on him. There's blood splattered across Roger's face, and she looks genuinely concerned. She immediately tells him to wash it off. She explains, almost like a teacher, that mad backhorn blood carries magical toxins. It can cause fever or terrible stomach pain if it's absorbed through the skin. Then she adds, almost casually, that if the beast wasn't mad, its meat and blood could have been used to make sausages. Roger blinks, speechless. No one has ever spoken to him like this before. When Melvera insists that he clean himself at once, Roger doesn't get angry. He's intrigued. He notices how calmly she talks about monsters as if they're just ingredients. She quickly apologizes, worried she said too much, but Roger just hands her a vial of purified water and points out that she might have gotten blood on her too. When he sees her gown soaked in red, he takes her hand gently, saying she should change into clean clothes. Melvera protests that the stains can come out easily with water, but Roger seems far more worried about her than the dress. Then, without thinking, she mentions she butchered a monster last week and got covered in even more blood back then. Roger freezes, completely caught off guard. When he asks for her name again, Melvera introduces herself formally, and that's when he bursts into laughter. He's finally realized who she is, the infamous noblewoman who eats monsters, the voracious villainess. In this world, magical beasts and strange plants, collectively called monsters, are feared by all. Their blood and flesh contain toxins that can make a person violently ill. But Melvera is the exception. Instead of fearing them, she's fascinated by their culinary potential. And as she stares at the slain backhorn before her, she can't help but think it actually looks delicious. Her innocent remark leaves Roger momentarily speechless, and when she awkwardly smiles to hide her embarrassment, it unexpectedly flusters him. When she asks what's wrong, he just clears his throat and composes himself, taking her hand once again. That's when Melvera realizes this man isn't afraid of her for eating monsters. Not one bit. As they walk together, Roger suddenly asks if backhorn meat really tastes good. It's such a casual question that Melvera almost laughs. Still, she admits softly that it's delicious, similar to beef, though tougher. She explains how she tenderizes it and removes the magical toxins. Instead of reacting with disgust, Roger listens carefully, fascinated. It's the first time anyone has taken genuine interest in her knowledge. Overwhelmed, Melvera lowers her head, hiding her tears. She explains her process, using special tools and purification spells to safely draw out the toxins. Roger's eyes light up, and he immediately asks if she could prepare a monster dish for him someday. Melvera is startled. She warns that only people with strong constitutions can eat it, but Roger just grins, clearly excited. Before long, he brings her to his pavilion where his aide, Chaos, greets them. Roger tells Chaos to bring Melvera fresh clothes and water to wash up. As she steps into the tent, she notices rows of weapons and the faint scent of iron in the air. Roger has even prepared a tub of warm water for her, but insists she should wash first. Instead, Melvera insists he go ahead. And without a second thought, Roger removes his upper clothing. Melvera freezes. She's seen knights and hunters bathe outdoors before, but this feels different. Her eyes, no matter how hard she tries, won't look away. Roger glances over, asking if something's wrong. Flustered, Melvera admits honestly that his physique is good. Roger seems genuinely surprised by that. He doesn't even realize how imposing he looks. When he resumes washing, Melvera gathers her courage and asks if he could teach her to fight monsters. Roger doesn't say no, but after glancing at her slender arms, he suggests that maybe she should just leave the slaying to him. She looks slightly disappointed, and realizing his mistake, Roger quickly explains that he only means he's more used to fighting. Then he changes the subject, asking if there's a particular kind of monster she'd like to try eating. Immediately, Melvera's eyes sparkle. Roger's territory is filled with rare creatures not found anywhere else. What others see as dangerous, she sees as a culinary adventure. While talking, Roger notices a streak of dried blood on her cheek and gently wipes it away. In return, Melvera carefully helps wash his face, her fingers brushing through his hair. For a brief moment, the world feels still between them. Then, Chaos bursts in, horrified. He scolds Roger for standing half-naked in front of a count's daughter, calling it completely inappropriate. Later, Melvera changes into a stunning gown borrowed from the queen. Roger, meanwhile, casually holds the severed monster head like it's a trophy. Melvera, amazed by his strength, blurts out that she wishes she could slay beasts too. Chaos watches silently, thinking that perhaps his master has finally met his match. That evening, Roger escorts Melvera back to her carriage. She thanks him with a curtsy, and though they part ways, both clearly wish they could stay longer. Before she leaves, Roger promises to slay a royal noodle for her next time. Melvera's eyes light up, and she gently reminds him that it would taste even better if captured alive. That makes Roger grin. It's a challenge he's eager to accept. Before leaving, Melvera gave Roger a gift, jerky made from a creature called the scatspit. Without hesitation, Roger took a bite, much to Chaos' horror, since the food hadn't been tested for poison. But Roger didn't care. He loved it. In fact, he even made Chaos try some too. Soon, both men were happily munching away, and Melvera could hardly believe it. For once, someone truly enjoyed her cooking instead of judging her for it. When Roger told her that he was looking forward to tasting more of her monster dishes, her heart nearly burst. No one had ever said that to her before. She hid her face, pretending to wipe away tears, and said it was only because she hated saying goodbye. Roger smiled softly, pretending to believe her. As they parted ways, he promised that they would meet again soon. And for the first time, Melvera actually looked forward to the next banquet, not for the food, but for the man who made her feel loved and appreciated. Because maybe, just maybe, she had finally found someone who understood her. Snow has already fallen across the March Raid lands when Melvera finally returns from her travels. But before she can even step inside her home, her father, Ghislaine, is already waiting outside, waving her over with a furious expression. Melvera immediately assumes he's angry because she still hasn't found a suitable fiancé. But it turns out that isn't the reason at all. Ghislaine reveals that he's received a letter, not from some local noble, but from Duke Roger himself. At first, Melvera thinks it must be a mistake, maybe a request for help. But Ghislaine clarifies that it's an actual marriage proposal. The news stuns them both. A duke asking for the hand of a woman from such a humble household? It seems almost impossible. Ghislaine is flustered and Melvera can only sweat nervously, wondering what could have led to this. Meanwhile, in a distant pavilion tent, Duke Roger meets with Crown Prince Maxim. The two discuss their recent monster hunt. Roger reports how he executed the mission perfectly, avoiding any casualties. Maxim listens, clearly satisfied, though something about Roger's tone feels off. While Maxim speaks casually, Roger's words are stiff and formal. It hadn't always been like that. Years ago, Roger used to call him Brother Maxim. But 17 years earlier, everything changed. Maxim was named Crown Prince, while Roger was adopted into the Galber family. Since then, an invisible wall has separated the two brothers. Maxim still treats him warmly, but Roger insists on distance. Trying to ease the tension, Maxim notices the basket Roger is carrying and asks what's inside. Roger tries to hide it, but Maxim is persistent. He somehow already knows about Roger's growing connection to Melvera, and when he mentions her name, Roger's calm mask cracks. Before Roger can react, Maxim snatches a piece of jerky from the basket and takes a bite. He's immediately impressed by the taste and asks what kind of meat it is. Roger answers that it's made from scatspit, a spiny monster. Maxim, intrigued, guesses that Melvera prepared it. When he sees how fondly Roger talks about her, he teases him, asking what his next move will be. But Roger avoids the question entirely, saying he'll remain on standby. He quickly leaves before Maxim can press further. As Roger walks away, frustration rises in his chest. Maxim's teasing hits too close to the truth. Because yes, it's rare for Roger to feel this drawn to anyone. But Melvera's image won't leave his mind. He remembers her from the banquet, the so-called voracious villainess who'd selflessly shielded an old couple from danger. That single act overturned everything he heard about her. Soon after, one of his subordinates, Chaos, approaches with news that the monster habitat is now secure. Roger nods, pleads, and relays Maxim's orders. But Chaos seems more interested in teasing him, asking if Melvera will be at their next banquet. Roger immediately suspects that Chaos was the one who told Maxim about her, though Chaos denies it quickly. Once left alone again, Roger's thoughts drift back to her tears, her hesitation, and the quiet loneliness he'd sensed beneath her calm smile. That's when he silently vows he'll never let her wear that expression again. Back at home, Melvera still can't believe that letter is real. Ghislaine tells her it arrived a week ago, delivered by a messenger riding a magnificent blaze eagle adorned with a jewel bearing the Galber crest. Melvera regrets not seeing the bird herself, and even Ghislaine admits how beautiful it was. But he quickly steers the conversation back to the proposal, wanting to know what exactly happened between her and the Duke. Melvera tells him everything honestly, how she met Roger at the banquet, how they spoke briefly about monster meat, but Ghislaine still finds it hard to believe that a single meeting led to this. Reading the letter again, Melvera herself begins to doubt its sincerity. Maybe Roger has another motive. Ghislaine agrees and decides to draft a careful reply, perhaps one that politely declines. That night, after her bath, Melvera sits at her desk and picks up the letter again. Her father's words echo in her mind. It was only one meeting. She sighs, tracing the Duke's name with her finger, and wonders if they were both simply carried away by their shared fascination with monster creatures. But then a thought occurs to her. Maybe Roger has no one to share his strange interests with, just as she doesn't. The realization makes her chest tighten with a mix of sympathy and curiosity. Then suddenly, the letter glows faintly. New lines appear on the page. Roger writes that he'll personally visit her on the 18th of Sirius. Melvera blinks, startled, and rushes to her father. Together, they realize with horror that the 18th is tomorrow. That night, Melvera can't sleep. She paces her room, flustered and anxious, holding a framed photo of her late mother. Speaking softly to it, she tells her mother about the proposal and wonders if the Duke will appreciate all types of meat the way her mother once did. Her thoughts drift to childhood, to those cold days when she stood beside her mother on their barren lands, learning to cook, learning to study monsters, inheriting her mother's research and passion. She's still chasing that dream, to prove that even monster meat can nourish people if treated properly. The next morning, Melvera is startled awake by a knock on her door. Her stepmother, Celia, walks in, frowning at the mess. She scolds Melvera for being lazy, for not taking her duties as a noblewoman seriously, and for still having no fiancé. She even brings up Roger, warning that despite his rank, he's infamous for being a violent, bloodthirsty duke. Before Melvera can respond, a thunderous sound fills the air. The cries of dragons echo from above. Melvera rushes to the window, and what she sees takes her breath away. Dozens of dragons soar through the sky, and at their head rides Duke Roger himself, majestic and commanding. Cilly is horrified and tells Melvera to shut the window immediately, but Melvera refuses. Instead, she leans out and tells Roger to wait for her in the northern pastures for a proper discussion. Without hesitation, he nods and flies off. As soon as he's gone, Melvera's face turns bright red. She hides behind the curtain, heart racing uncontrollably. Cilly calls her name several times before finally announcing she's leaving, claiming she feels unwell. Melvera tries to convince her to stay for the meeting, but Celia refuses, saying Ghislaine's presence is enough. Before leaving, she throws one last insult, calling Roger's arrival on a dragon disgraceful. But this time, Melvera doesn't hold back. She boldly declares that she will accept the Duke's proposal. Furious, Celia storms out. Later, in the northern pastures, Melvera finally meets Roger face to face. Though she tries to act composed, she can't hide her nervousness. Soon, Chaos joins them, apologizing for the sudden visit and explaining that Roger could no longer wait for her answer. As they talk, Roger suddenly grows serious. He steps closer, takes a strand of her hair, and examines it with genuine curiosity, wondering why it's so soft. Melvera, embarrassed, insists it's just messy from the wind. Roger chuckles quietly, then gestures to a large sack nearby. That, he says, is his gift to her. Melvera blinks in disbelief when he opens it. Inside lies a monster, just as he promised her before. Her eyes light up instantly. She can barely contain her excitement as she thanks him again and again. When he lifts the cover completely, she gasps. It's a golden moodle, a rare horned creature with radiant fur. Most moodles are white, prized for their pelts but rarely eaten. Yet this one glows like sunlight. Melvera immediately begins explaining everything she knows about it. Its diet, its habitat, how its meat becomes tender during winter, how valuable its fur is for clothing. Roger listens, clearly fascinated. Then, without saying a word, he gently takes her hand and places it over the creature's chest. She feels a heartbeat. It's still alive, merely asleep under magic. Her mind bursts with ideas, recipes, experiments, research plans, and her heart races with joy. She can barely stop smiling. This isn't just a gift. It's a sign that he truly understands her passion. Just then, Ghislaine arrives with his men. He greets the Duke formally, and the two begin discussing the proposal. As they talk, Melvera asks her father to allow Roger's dragons to rest and hunt in the nearby mountains. But Ghislaine misunderstands, thinking the moodle is meant to feed them. When he learns that it's actually for her, he's stunned. To his surprise, Roger already knows about Melvera's unusual hobby. Melvera adds that he's even eager to taste her cooking, and that she hopes to build a new research facility with his support. Ghislaine hesitates, unsure what to make of it, until Roger speaks firmly. He says he understands Melvera completely, both her habits and her reputation, and he accepts all of it. Hearing that, Ghislaine softens. He could tell the Duke's interest is genuine. Still, Roger reminds them that the moodle is alive and needs to be handled quickly. Ghislaine inspects the creature and admits it's both precious and dangerous. Since Roger wants to see how Melvera cooks it, Ghislaine gives his permission. He even orders her to guide Roger to her research facility. And so they set off together on Dragonback. For Melvera, it's her first flight, and the experience fills her with awe. Roger, noticing her amazement, jokes that she mustn't try to eat his dragons. As the research facility comes into view below, Melvera's voice trembles as she tells him to descend. The place is sacred to her. It once belonged to her late mother. And now, for the first time, she's bringing someone there. She feels nervous but determined. If Roger truly accepts her, her father will finally be at ease. At the facility, Roger immediately notices something unusual, a giant magic circle carved into the floor filled with ancient inscriptions. Melvera proudly explains that her mother originally designed it, but she's made her own improvements over the years. This, she says, is where they'll begin processing the monster they just captured. As Roger studies the carvings more closely, he realizes the circle was made to let Melvera absorb magical toxins from monsters. But even with all its complexity, it doesn't seem powerful enough to extract everything completely. So Melvera takes him deeper inside the facility to a sealed chamber where she keeps her other tools. There she retrieves a cloudy piece of quartz, an intricate crystal that can draw out both magical energy and blood. Roger is stunned by how finely crafted it is. Then, with calm determination, she turns to Roger and makes a bold request. She wants to see the decapitation technique he once used against monsters. Outside, the massive golden creature called the Mood has already been laid inside the ritual circle. Melvera prepares to begin her ceremony, but knows handling a monster of this size will be difficult. So she asks the knight for help. Roger raises his hand to signal his men, and they immediately move in to start deherring the beast. He explains that his knights aren't just trained to slay monsters, they're also skilled in harvesting pelts, horns, and claws for resources. In fact, shaving fur is one of their specialties. Within minutes, the golden mood is clean and ready. Melvera collects the thick golden fur and places her hand on it, her eyes gleaming with excitement, not only for the ritual, but also for the thought of all the delicious dishes she can create from this rare creature's meat. Meanwhile, Roger prepares to decapitate the monster. But before he can act, Melvera kneels beside the circle and recites a short prayer, her way of honoring the creature's life. Then, with a steady voice, she chants in the ancient magical tongue to activate the circle. Only then does Roger move. In one fluid motion, he draws his sword and slices through the monster's neck with breathtaking precision. Melvera can't help but be amazed by his flawless technique. After the beheading, she begins the extraction ritual. Holding the cloudy quartz, she recites another prayer. This time, the monster's blood slowly lifts into the air, swirling toward the crystal. As more and more of it flows inside, cracks suddenly appear on the quartz surface. It's never happened before. Panicked but unable to stop, Melvera struggles to maintain control. Roger quickly asks how he can help, and she orders him to fetch another quartz. Without hesitation, he rushes to grab one and replaces the damaged crystal. The moment he does, Melvera regains her composure and finishes the ritual. She recites the final chant, channeling every drop of her magic until the monster's essence is fully absorbed. But the process drains her strength, and she nearly collapses. Thankfully, Roger catches her just in time. When the ritual ends, the knights inspect the mood's body. They'd expect it to be dried out or ruined, but to their surprise, it looks fresh and perfect. Melvera explains that her method only extracts the blood and magical energy, not the moisture. Keeping that moisture inside ensures the meat stays tender and flavorful. Roger, still impressed, asks where she learned such advanced methods. Melvera smiles faintly and credits her late mother. She tells him about what happened 17 years ago during the Great Drought when her homeland suffered from famine and infertile soil. To save her people, her mother began researching ways to turn monsters into safe, edible meat. That research, Melvera says, saved countless lives. And after her mother's death, she vowed to continue her legacy. But she admits with a small laugh that lately she's also been doing it simply because she enjoys the taste of rare creatures. Curious, Roger then asks what she does with the magical energy she extracts. She casually answers, it's mostly used for fire, good enough to power cooking or lighting for 2 months straight. Roger can't help but burst into laughter. Her innocent use of something so powerful is almost absurd. He gently explains that this energy, if misused, could destroy entire nations. Melvera freezes, realizing she's never thought about it that way. Roger's tone softens. He assures her that while rumors may spread, his duty is to protect her from anyone who would misuse her work. His words deeply move her. But then, with a teasing grin, Roger brings up another rumor that she drinks monster blood. Surprised, Melvera blushes and quickly denies it. Roger only grows more serious, staring into her eyes and declaring that he'd lay down his life for her. Embarrassed, she calls him out for joking, but he insists he means it. Flustered, she blurts out a few compliments in return, praising his eyes, his hair, even his cape. The air grows awkward between them, until chaos breaks the moment. Melvera clears her throat and quickly changes the topic, saying they should start preparing the meat. Outside, Roger's dragons are already restless, waiting for food. Just then, Melvera arrives with the official hunting permit they'll need to enter the mountains. Roger laughs, saying his dragons have been complaining about their boring meals lately. But before he can say more, his own stomach growls loudly. The scent of the royal mood's meat is just too tempting. So, Roger and Melvera decide to sneak in a little taste test before the others arrive. They slice off the rarest cuts and prepare a small grill. Roger even pulls out a bottle of special herbs he secretly took from the royal chef. Melvera takes a small taste of it and melts with delight at the rich flavor. Laughing, they remind themselves this is just a test, not them stealing food. They sprinkle the herbs, then use the monster's own magical blood to light the flame. As the meat cooks, Roger impatiently complains, "It smells too good to wait." But before they can eat, Chaos, one of the knights, spots them and immediately accuses the pair of sneaking snacks together. Roger frantically denies it, but the situation looks obvious. Trying to change the subject, he gives Chaos the hunting permit and tells him to feed the dragons instead. Chaos laughs and points out that the dragons are starving while their commander is secretly grilling meat. Eventually, Roger gives him a skewer, but the rest of the knights suddenly show up too, demanding their share. Melvera can't help but smile and gives her approval. Soon the knights gather around, laughing and cooking together. When the first skewer is ready, Chaos insists on tasting it, first to test for poison. Roger argues, but Melvera finally lets Chaos have the first bite. The moment he chews, his eyes widen in pure joy. He praises the flavor over and over, saying it's tender, rich, and perfect for pairing with wine. Melvera beams with pride. Hearing that, Roger can't wait any longer. He asks if Chaos feels any strange effects, but magical toxins usually take time to show. Still, Roger declares that the test is good enough and tells everyone to dig in. Melvera laughs and assures them she's already prepared medicine in case anyone gets sick. And just like that, the group erupts into cheerful shouts as they feast. Everyone's amazed. The meat is unbelievably delicious, nothing like the tough, bitter monster meat they've eaten before. Roger compliments Melvera again, saying he never imagined monsters could taste this good. She humbly replies that it's all thanks to her mother's research. The knights beg her to teach them her methods and even talk about bringing back another beast to practice. But she reminds them that eating monsters is still considered taboo. Later, as everyone relaxes, Melvera quietly calls Roger into her laboratory. The moment he steps inside, he's stunned by the sheer number of books and neatly arranged materials. Even the monster spines are sorted by size and color. Her meticulousness only deepens his admiration. While she prepares tea, he learns that she often hunts monsters alone. He's shocked. Surely the Count or someone should be helping her. But Melvera explains that most people in her land disapprove of her work. Many still follow old animist beliefs and see eating monster meat as sacrilege. Despite that, she continues her mother's research, even when the very people who once benefited from it now pretend they never touched monster meat during the famine. Roger, curious, asks why she keeps going in a world that refuses to understand her. She recalls the tragedy from 17 years ago, the same event that led to Roger's adoption by the Galber family. To continue their conversation, he gently guides her to sit on the couch, telling her she doesn't have to look at him if it's too hard to speak. He just wants to listen. After all, he came out only for research, but to propose to her. He already knows that society looks down on her, but he doesn't care. He tells her she can continue her research freely under his protection. Melvera hesitates, thinking he's only interested in her work. But Roger interrupts, saying the only thing he truly wants is to understand how she feels about him. For a moment, she's speechless. That's when she realizes, when Roger said he wanted to understand her, he wasn't talking about her experiments, but her heart. That marks the end of today's Anirecap. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach a current goal of 10K subscribers.